the key is to be as radically honest and vulnerable as humanly possible, right? Like to expose as much truth, because if you do that, everybody can see themselves in you. If you just project some version of yourself, they may not identify with that version, but if you show the entirety, they'll be able to see, oh yeah, I get it. That's me too.
Yeah. This speaking of vulnerability, what do you mean by vulnerability?
It's not any show and tell, costuming, projection, putting on a face, a mask, an avatar. It's just the truth. It's what is. And being willing to expose what is, because what is tender. It's vulnerable. It's really you.
Yeah.
You project something, someone criticizes the projection. Yeah. If I'm playing a character, they don't like the character, I'm like, oh, well, I didn't like that character. But if I'm me and they don't like me, then they don't like me.
Yeah.
It's still their own story.
Yeah.
And that's what you just have to understand. It's still their own story. But the truth is, that's what's scary about it. That's why it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because you have to bear the brunt of direct criticism to your essential self.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't willing to do that.
Right. I'm just curious, like what's that been like? Like what kind of arrows have come your way, if there's been any?
Yeah.
And what has that been like? Yeah.
I started talking about ayahuasca probably 11 years ago. And immediately go back to the fucking jungle, you druggie, you hippie. So I was a druggie. I was just a drug abuser.
Yeah.
That was the kind of the first volley of arrows, followed closely by the second volley of arrows, which was when I started this supplement company. Then we're making supplements on it. And I was a snake oil salesman. And I was conning people and tricking people into believing that these supplements could actually have an effect. It was hard. It was hard to feel the first volley of arrows, it felt unjust. It felt like, this is not true. This is not true. Ayahuasca is not drug abuse. And these supplements I'm not conning anybody. I'm making the best supplements that I know work. And if you don't like them, you get your money back, and it's not a con. And so that hurt a lot.
Yeah.
The first time that I received all that, I went to a really, really dark place. Unfortunately, I had some good friends and mentors who helped me out of that, and they haven't stopped. It's just different arrows now. It's to have that communitas and have that shared experience. That's made me, take arrows as a cult leader. Right? My coaching program, and so many other people have. Yeah. And really, we're the anti-cult, right? We're like trying to teach people how to understand themselves better and then go forward in the world and carry something else different. So injustice, right? That's the thing that gets me how dare you? This is not true. How dare you? So there's that voice that comes, but also with my experience, a deeper understanding of, all right, I get it.
Right. And what is it? I get the sense that the arrows that come at you now, you have a different experience of them than when you first got them. Like you said, it really hurt the first time.
Yeah.
You needed some friends to to support you and to keep standing up and not take it so personally. I would imagine. I don't get the sense. I don't sense fear.
No.
Around it. What's the difference?
You could imagine, let's say we were back in ancient times where there were actually arrows.
Yeah.
And you were a young hoplite in some, Greek squadron or battalion. And they would throw their spears and skirmish a little bit and then scurry back, because they knew that they would be a little scared. They weren't seasoned. It's like, wow, this is really risky and I'm not used to this. And I think that was the start. I was young. I was a young warrior. I wasn't used to that. And so I got, the wounds hit and I wasn't expecting them. I wasn't expecting it. And then one of the Spartans looked at another and said, and so we will fight in the shade. Like the arrows will blot out the sun. So we'll fight in the shade. And then he just kind of smiled.
Right.
I'm not quite at the, and so we will fight in the shade level, like I still like, oh shit, that's a lot of arrows, but I'm also used to them, and so I'm getting closer to that kind of place where it's like, I know that this is the nature of it, and that I'll be okay.
Yeah.
I trust myself.
Yeah. I trust myself. I know I'll be okay. What's the okay that you're talking about?
Okay to me means, one, I think it's actually kind of going through Maslow's hierarchy to a certain extent. One is, are you going to be okay enough that are they going to come for your safety, your actual financial safety, that's one element that's quickly, like the easiest to overcome. Okay, actually they're not going to touch any of that. They're not actually going to physically attack your body. It's not going to prevent you from earning a living and providing for those that you love, and they're not going to remove your home. Now, she donated $50 to the trucker convoy and got her accounts frozen, her bank accounts frozen, right?
Yeah.
Of course, like social media will shoot arrows. How dare you support these people, whatever their narrative is. Yeah. Those are the arrows, but those are the arrows that's not the spot that I have any worry. So my viability to be able to impact the world in a positive way. Like my ability to live my dharma, which is to share my thoughts and my opinions and everything that I want to share with the world. The ability for the world to pull that away from me, to be silenced, canceled, those things. So that fear hasn't been fully resolved, right? But I'm getting a lot more comfortable with this idea that the most violent form of canceling that we've seen in our kind of culture, the culture is shifting, and you're not forever punished and silenced for some thought you had or some belief you had.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a full-fledged attack, and some of it warranted in certain ways, and he acknowledged mistakes that he'd made, of course. Yeah. But they were unsuccessful in taking him out. Yeah. Like ultimately he's still going. Yeah. And of course it hurt. They mounted a massive attack. He had to acknowledge a lot of errors of ways of thinking and being in the past. But so there's a greater confidence in that aspect. They're not going to be able to stop me from being me. Right? Yeah. And then the final one that I think is still very alive is that it just hurts to be misunderstood. Yeah. It hurts when someone projects. I mean, if an arrow is a projectile, it's a projectile of someone's projection. Yeah. Right. And it hurts when that projection doesn't map to the reality that I know to be true. Yeah. Totally. And it hurts the worst when I actually am not as confident in the ontology behind my expression of what I'm saying. So like I really notice that, like I can have kind of a belief that I intuitively feel like, no, I intuitively feel this thing and I'll express it, and then it'll get attacked, and I'll be like, wait, did I really think through that all the way? Like, is that rock solid? Am I sure? And if there's vulnerability in my sense of, no, I'm sure, like I'm as confident as I can be, there's vulnerability there. That's when the arrows draw the most blood. Right. Which is almost productive in a certain way. And it's actually been helpful. That resistance from the world has made me say like, okay, let me be really careful with my words and let me really understand the whole perspective here and share a very balanced and honest perspective. Right.